Happy Friday, everyone, and thank you for being here, Jenny.
Thank you.
So, full confession, I have been fangirling on you ever since you went on social media because you're so damn funny.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
And now I get to fangirl out on you on AOL. So there we go.
I love it.
But your book is absolutely hilarious. It's about becoming a mom and all the magic and beauty and poetry. And I'm kidding. It's a wrong book. No, this book does not fetishize motherhood at all. It's literally about the real deal of what your life, you have these delusions, I think, that your life won't change at all. And then,
yeah.
Well,
yeah, I said, when I set out to do this, I was like, I never wanted to write a book about being a mom because I would never want to read a book about being a mom. It just sounds so, can I cuss? Oh, so fucking boring. I would never read a book about motherhood. And I didn't read any books to prepare for motherhood, which is probably, why my son is going to need therapy. But
I believe you wrote in the book that you use your motherhood, your parenting books as coasters.
Yes, they all became coasters in my house. Exactly. Yeah, so I guess I would say that the book, it's like my son sort of galvanized this crazy sort of thing inside me that led me to some really strange places. But when I think about the book, I know it is about having a child. But to me, it's really not about, he's really on the back burner. It's about just sort of what happens to you as a woman. You're told your whole life, it's like, you should be afraid of dark alleys. You should be afraid of strangers. Don't get in the car with this person. Don't talk to that. And one day this might hurt you and this might, and even eventually maybe your boobs are gonna turn on you. And then all of a sudden somebody hands you this thing and they're like, and by the way, guard this with your life. So that idea of, oh my God, I have to be responsible. I want to sit at home and craft the perfect tweet and stalk my husband's ex-girlfriend and, think about cute outfits. I don't want to have to be somebody's role model. And I think the fear that evokes, I ended up projecting onto all sorts of different things in my life. All sorts of weird external, probably places that I shouldn't have been focusing, but I ended up there.
But
if that makes any sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And what really works about your book is just how honest you are from the time you found out you were pregnant.
Yeah.
You weren't like, oh my God, I have been blessed and this is a dream come true and shout it from the rooftops. This cover kind of illustrates that point in your life.
Yeah. I was pregnant once before I had Sid, and that was when Jason and I first got together, and I think the book, I don't want to give it away. So the book opens up with me saying, how pregnant do I have to be before I can have an abortion? Because I was like, I'm 28 years old, I barely know you, you've hijacked my life, and I'm not sure I want to be a parent right now. And, when I ended up having a miscarriage a few months after that, but when I had Sid, we were obviously in a different place. We'd been married for 5 years, whatever. And as I was coming up with the cover, I was thinking about, I go to Peru and I'm doing ayahuasca. I'm traveling to the mountains of Morocco to get in a fight with somebody I met on Etsy. I went kind of fucking crazy in this last year. But, so with the cover, I'm like, I want it to be action-y and adventure-y, and I'm telling Yaniv, think of Indiana Jones, think of the movie Outrageous Fortune. I want it to have that feel because I felt like there was the whole book I feel like has this urgency to it. And then, eventually we settled on skiing. But the ironic thing about that is that in this first chapter, when I'm talking about, wanting to abort this fetus, I was on a skiing trip with Jason, and I'm skiing off the mountains. I'm like, maybe I'll just fall. Maybe if I just do the craziest move ever, I won't have to deal with this. So weirdly, now the book looks like me trying to have a miscarriage, which isn't what I intended, and it's dedicated to my real son. whatever. You know, it
You know
happens.
what? I think anyone who says that they are not conflicted when they find out they're pregnant is lying.
Yeah.
Full on lying, because when you first see that line, it's like,
Yeah.
holy shit balls.
Yes.
What next, right?
Well, especially when you're not planning it. You know, when we actually tried to get pregnant, it was a totally different experience. But the first time, you know, when I was, you know, late, and thinking, oh, you know, I'm sure my period's coming, Finally, I take a pregnancy test, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck is happening? I was on ecstasy, I had taken a morning after pill, like, this isn't my life. Yeah.
And fast forward to my other favorite chapter in the book, the joy and the fulfillment of mommy and me groups.
Yes.
And making mom friends. So talk to me about that, because your descriptions of these women, I think they transcend like all nationalities, states, neighborhoods, cities, what have you.
Well, yeah, I had a certain group that I was sort of thrust into in Los Angeles because my sister had been in a Mommy and Me program in Santa Monica. So I was around that type of woman, that California mom. And then I decided that my house was haunted and I had to sell it immediately behind Jason's back after only owning it for 6 months. And we ended up moving to New York, where I met an entirely different type of mom, the Tribeca variety.
And how did that work out?
Well, it made me feel very poor. I was like, Jason, we have no fucking money. Everybody in Tribeca is like, has an airplane and a fucking house in the Hamptons. Like, what is going on? I thought I was doing okay in life, and now I'm really not okay. Yeah, but it's just interesting. It's like, you know, there are these moms that dedicate so much of their lives to their children, and I guess I'm just like not that good of a person because I need to still, you know, fulfill some of my own. Yes, exactly. But the thing I love about New York is that it's like I'm kind of on a giant cruise ship where it's like I can be a mom upstairs, but then I can also disappear downstairs to a night of like, you know, Broadway shows, music, dancing, 5-star restaurants. It's like a cruise ship. So I have the best of both worlds. And also it's like New York is a city where 35 is still considered young. Not that I'm 35 anymore. Now I'm 37. I just turned 37. But whatever, let's pretend I'm 35. But anyway, you know, I still feel like I'm allowed, I don't know, some transgressions that I'm not in LA. In LA, it's like, you're a mom, get in your fucking house, get in your backyard, start grilling, and bust out the Yogo treats.
And don't forget, grow your own vegetables with which to puree organic, holistic meals. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
As I told you about my mommy group.
Exactly. Exactly.
What was your writing process like for this? I always love hearing these stories. At what point, first of all, did you decide that you wanted to write a book? And how did you go about doing it?
Well, after the first book, you know, I ended up writing the pilot for that book, and I sold that to ABC, and that was a whole different experience because, you know, when you're writing a book, you're sort of the master of your own universe. It's like whatever you say goes. My editor would chime in with certain things like, maybe don't say that, like, you're scared that, you know, this guy in Morocco was going to decapitate you and fuck you with Jason's severed head. Like, maybe leave that out. I didn't. I left that in because that was like one of my favorite lines. But, you know, in the first book, I'm writing and I'm having so much fun, finally having this sense of control in my life. As an actress, I was always like, please hire me, like, choose me. And nobody did most of the time. So the book really gave me something concrete that was like a piece of work that was mine, that I could really, I don't know, hold on to. So after going through that experience and then turning it into a pilot where all of a sudden I'm getting notes from every executive that works at ABC, or it felt like that, I thought to myself, God, you know what? I want to give the money back. I don't even like want to do this anymore. I just want to write another book.
And can you imagine doing that for 22 episodes? Getting all
No.
those, because that's what it would be like, is getting the notes and the revisions.
It is
and
crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm still kind of dealing with it. It's nuts. But, so this was a great outlet for me. I was able to then turn to, this project and spend a nice portion of my day only having to listen to myself. I'm such a narcissist. So like, how could I make it about me?
But your writing is so vivid. Like, I completely visualize that scene that you describe of you and Jason laying in bed. Don't get all excited, people. Doing what any married couple does, sitting on your individual iPads.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I think before our life was a little bit more exciting, especially when our nanny didn't like sleep in bed next to us. I mean, she doesn't. She's like maybe a few inches away, but like she is so in my space here in New York because I stole her from LA, so now she lives with me. It's just not really a sexy environment. Also, I'm over him. I've had too much sex with him. I'm like, I love him, but again, like anything that's just too easily accessible. It's like I could
Jason,
also do a million
this,
other things right now.
Jason, if you're watching this, she's totally kidding.
Yes. No, I mean, I love him. But I think he would say the same thing. It's also like, but I can have sex with you whenever. Like right now I need to just like hit refresh like 6 more times.
But you are like the only person who has ever written about going on Tinder to find mommy friends.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yes. So I signed up for Tinder and I was like, if I make my profile like a fun-loving sort of mom looking for friends in the neighborhood, maybe I'll meet some interesting people. And I found out what a cuddle switch is. I didn't know what that meant.
Please tell us.
I was like, what's a cuddle switch? I guess it means that you could be like the big spoon or the small spoon, or you're like the dom and the submissive, maybe? We didn't actually meet up, so I'm not sure what she had in mind for me, but yeah. So I met some interesting women that way. And it was, it's a whole caper. It's a whole fucking caper, you guys. It gets weird.
Which of the stories in the book resonated the most with you personally? That when you were writing, or which chapter, I should say, when you were writing really kind of hit you at the core?
Oh, well, the first chapter was sort of an amalgam of a couple different stories. One that I had written for Cosmo when I first had Sid, and then another story that I had worked on. And whenever I read the end, like even on the audio, it's like I'm just brought to tears. Like it really brings me to my knees because it's just, I think, the most vulnerable maybe I'll ever be in my life. I mean, I'm so out of control with Sid. Like I'm in love with a guy that's like gonna fucking leave me. And I've never like dated somebody like him before. It's like really all very new. And just that feeling, I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable being that out of control. It's really scary. So the first chapter, and then the end, when I was on ayahuasca and like tripping
With
balls.
Chelsea Handler.
Yeah, and I'm tripping balls in the Amazon only to be cradled by Chelsea Handler, like the least maternal human on earth. Yeah, that was hard. That was one that it really cuts to my core because maybe I was on drugs. You know, when you're on drugs, it's just like so much more vivid. But I was having some really crazy hallucinations.
About your son.
Mm-hmm. About my son, about like the Four Seasons symbol, about like just all sorts of weird things were popping in. But yes, there were some revelations about Sid that were intense.
But your dedication to him is just so sweet.
Yeah, I'm like his slave. I'm really his slave. Like if I took my shirt off right now, you guys would probably call some sort of protective services because he's been biting me and I have the craziest, I'm a battered woman. I'm being
A man
abused
who will eventually leave you.
by a man who's going to leave me. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just like, it's a setup for disaster. Yaniv, my editor, said to me that he had read this somewhere, but a woman said, if I'd known I was going to love this much, I probably wouldn't have had him. And I completely relate to that. It's like if I had known I was going to be so undone by this whole thing, I would have probably waited even longer to have children.
Well, do you see yourself having more?
Well, I think I have to, because he's turning into a dick. So I have to have another one. That's the fucking worst part of all of this. I'm really in a bad place, you
Girl,
guys.
I feel you.
I'm not comfortable at all. I mean, the last book when I went on tour, it was like, I'm like, oh yeah, and this happened, and I'm crazy, and everyone should embrace being crazy, and everybody should stalk their husband's ex. And I was very convicted about that, but this time I'm just like, somebody help me. I had a baby, and I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm really scared. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Well, I do have to say that, you know what? You just spoke the God's honest truth, my friend. They are dicks.
Right?
They are.
Yeah, but you want to make them perfect. You want to do it right. You want to be better than your parents, which in my case is sort of easy. But, yeah, it's difficult. It's a real challenge.
What do you want Sid to take away from this book when he eventually reads it? And I'm sure he will read it because it's great.
Well, this is the thing. I hope that Sid is well-adjusted enough that he never has to read any of my books. That he doesn't give a shit enough about knowing me or understanding me that he would need to read any of my books. You know, it's like I want him to just get me and have this intimate, close, real relationship with me in person. I want him to think of any of my books and just be like, oh my God, please. I have way better things to do than read my mom's book. I don't know. I think also, my father has written a few books, and yeah, no.
No? It's just not going there?
I mean, just it sounds like the least exciting thing to do.
So do you and Jason ever have those moments where he's like, this better not wind up in the book, man. If it winds up in the book, I'm selling
Jason
it.
gets more upset when we're in a fight, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, really? Really? And I pick up my phone. He's like, are you tweeting this? Are you fucking tweeting this right now? The other day, he called me his ex-girlfriend's name, purely by accident, because I'm way more obsessed with her than he is. I'm not over her at all, and I will never be over her. I'm upset that I'm not invited to her wedding, which is happening
You and the
maybe next month.
ex-girlfriend should go to couples counseling or something. Have you considered it?
Oh my God. What I really want to do is go on The Amazing Race with her. We would slay.
You would totally sabotage her though, wouldn't you?
No, I want to no, I'm rooting for her. I need her to love me. I think the fact that I think what bothers me is this. She dated Jason, and I married him. So she ended up hating me. But I cannot have her hate me. I need to win her over. I almost need to prove to her that I'm better than Jason for her. I mean, it's sick. But yeah, he called me her name, and I was like, excuse me, where's my phone? Have you seen my phone? I need to tweet that.
So does that happen frequently, where you guys have these moments and you're
Yes.
just oh.
Or he'll be like, are you Snapchatting this right now? Because my dick is out. I'm like, don't worry, I'm gonna paste a smiley face over that.
So if you were to write a third book, which I'm sure you will, because you're a very good writer, what would you want it to be on?
Okay, so I kind of already know. I think if I were so lucky, if this book does well enough for me to get the opportunity, I want to write a book called He's Just Not That Into You Yet. Because I feel like I can make anyone into anyone if they listen to me. Yes, and there would be a big chapter about Jason's ex right at the front.
Wait, but we have to go back and recall the fact that in your book, you watched his audition tape and you wanted him to not get the role.
Oh yeah, I was rooting for his demise.
And then you fell in love with
still
him.
do, just because I get jealous that he's more famous than me. But yeah, when I met Jason, we were auditioning for a movie, and my sister was dating a guy that represented the writer of that movie. So he had a password, and you could go online and watch these other actors' auditions. And so he said to me, he's like, do you want to see the other girls you're up against? And I'm like, fuck yeah, obviously I do. I want to see everyone I've ever been up against. And I'm watching through, and I'm feeling, like this sense of just power, like watching them have to audition for me. And then he said, while you're at it, there are two guys that we're looking at for the lead. One is Jason Biggs, and one is this other person. And I'm like, fuck Jason Biggs. Like, fuck that guy. He is, I had never seen anything he had done. I was just like, he's famous. And I'm not famous, so fuck him. So I definitely wanted the underdog to get the role. But then I watched the audition tapes, and Jason he hates when I say this. I hope that he's not watching. Maybe he is. But I was like, this is like the best thing I've ever seen you do. He's like, great, thanks a lot. My audition tape that no one's ever seen is my best work ever. But it really was. He was so fantastic. And I told the writer, the manager, I said, I think you have to give it to Jason Biggs, and I might be in love with him. And I was sort of kidding, but a few weeks later, my sister called and she said, so will you go on a double date with me and Doug and Jason? And I guess the rest is history.
I was about to say, the rest is Sid's story.
The rest is Sid's story. Yes.
And which brings us to our audience Q&A.
Hi, Jenny. I love your honesty, and I wanted to know if you consider yourself a feminist.
Oh, yeah. I think you have to be a feminist just to be a woman in today's society. I think you have to be. I think there's no other option.
The definition of feminism is
Yes.
equality, so
Yes.
I don't know how you couldn't be one, right?
But maybe I'm even more extreme. Maybe I just think that women should rule the world.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that.
Right?
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
So in 10 years, when the motherhood chapter appears in my life, hopefully, knock on wood, I know what book I have to read, so I'm looking forward to it. I have to wait a little bit. So I came across some research, and one of the quotes you came out with is the power of persuasion would be the greatest superhero.
Oh, yeah. I don't
can you
know how
tell what
that made
story
it onto
came
my
out?
IMDb. Honestly, I don't even know how that got there. I was on this TV show, Angel. It was the Buffy spinoff for a little beat. And I did all of these like crazy conventions where they would fly us over to England, and then we were considered Beatles over there. Like, they were obsessed with sci-fi. So I would do these sci-fi conventions, and one of the questions at one of these conventions was, of course, what would your superpower be? And I was saying that I think the power of persuasion is the greatest superpower there is. Because if I could convince anybody to do anything I wanted, why do I need
a
anything
superpower?
else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the world is your oyster.
The world is my oyster, yes.
Hey, Jenny. I remember
Hi.
you guys saw Hamilton in November. Will we see you on stage anytime soon?
No. Definitely not. I'm trying to avoid that. Unless I get offered the role of Hamilton.
Hi, Jenny, big fan. So why do you choose more dramatic roles when you do acting versus comedic roles?
That's just kind of how my career started. I don't even think I didn't think I was funny. I mean, I just sort of fell into a lot of that dramatic stuff. And I was always getting cast as the like angry, disgruntled cop woman. And so I actually have a director friend who still calls me. He's like, I got another angry cop for you. And then I end up on Chicago Fire. I'm like, what am I doing here? But yeah, it's just been random. I really don't know.
Hey, Jenny, TGIF, killing it here. So my roommate, he's a writer, and he's going through a very difficult case of writer's block. How do you deal with writer's block?
You have to just write through it. You have to just keep writing. I mean, it might be shit that you're writing down, but eventually you'll sift through it and find something. I think I'll take a day or two off here or there, but really, it's just like, even when I hate what I'm writing, I have to just keep going. It's the only way out is through.
How are your memories so stellar, though? I mean, do you keep a journal every day? Do you like record things in your phone?
I take some notes in my phone. Yeah, especially in the first few months after I had Sid, I was taking notes. And every time I'm around my mom, my insane mom, I'm like, wait, what did you say? Hold on. Oh, you're putting Sid in a hot tub? Please hold. That kind of stuff.
No, because I always, like, when reading your book, I was like, this is like, it's just so visceral and so vivid. Oh, God,
Yes.
I'm so poetic. I can't stand
You are.
myself.
I'm loving this. I'm going to use
but-
these in the next interview I do.
Please. They're not copyrighted, so
Okay.
it's all yours. But
Thank you.
But no, reading it, I was like, wow, how does she, especially after having a baby, like,
Yeah.
how were you able to just recall all this stuff?
Yeah, I took a lot of notes in the beginning.
That was very smart.
Yeah.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. If they made a biopic about your life, which actors would play you?
Oh my God, that's good.
Giselle.
Yeah, somebody amazing. I don't know. Maybe somebody like, I love Eliza Coop. I think she'd be really funny. God, that's hard. I don't know.
You're only 35, so too young to think about.
I mean, yeah, let me think. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe Eliza Coop. I think she's great and would be really funny. I want somebody who could like do some of the more physical, because this book as well, it's like there's some real crazy physical comedy that ensues, hanging off of buildings and such.
And last question, please.
Hello, Jenny. I'm really
Hi.
loving your personality and your honesty.
Oh,
so
thank
I
you.
wanted to know what qualities that you possess that you would like to pass on to your children.
I hope that Sid doesn't take himself too seriously and that he's able to sort of laugh about whatever damage he acquires from being raised by two actors. I think just a sense of humor about things, and I don't want him to ever be afraid to tell the truth. I think that's really key about just like, I mean, in general, it's like, just fucking say it. We're all thinking it. Just say it.
And yeah, that is, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what you said, and I think that's a really great lesson to teach your kids.
I
to
hope he gets
always
that.
speak your mind.
Right. Or he's going to just be like the exact opposite of us.
Well, from what you said backstage, it sounds like he's going in the right direction.
I
so.
hope so.
And when is the book out?
The book is out next Tuesday. This coming Tuesday.
Tuesday next week.
I can't handle it. It's so scary.
It's amazing and very, 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 very funny. Thank you so much.
So sweet. Thanks for having me, guys.